MotUS Edge, where we celebrate business, primarily youth sports facility management, leadership, and motivation, co-hosted by Stacy Rowe, Cole Stott, and Casey Jones. We are here to fill your cup with knowledge, laughter, affirmations, and comfort knowing that you're not alone. You can and will succeed with the MotUS Edge.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the MotUS Edge, where we talk about leadership, motivation, and all things cheer and dance biz. I am Stacy Rowe, here with my favorite co-host, Casey Jones, and our guest today is none other than Brayden Black, who is a mindset and identity mentor for the next generation. I am super excited to learn from you today, Brayden. Thank you so much for coming on to the show.
Thanks, Stacy and Casey. I'm loving the rhyme here. Stacy, Casey, this is a great little mix-up right here. So, yeah, I'm excited to be here. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, man, we're excited to have you. Brayden and I were chatting a little bit before we got going here, and I can just tell that this is a high energy dude, man. He's got some good vibes kicking. So I'm excited to chat with you this morning.
I'm excited to chat with you, Brayden, because Casey and I talk about this all the time. You know, in our gyms, oftentimes with our athletes, our coaches range from, 17-year-old kids sometimes that we're training, junior coaches, up to, I know that I present day currently employ, she's a 75-year-old coach who's just been in it forever, and we've got every age in between. And we talk about oftentimes like that age gap, but then how to really kind of connect with the younger generation. I hate to say it because I am a lot younger than Casey, but I do hate to say that I am definitely like, my kids are teenagers. I see some of our 20 something staff and I definitely look at them and I'm like, wow, we are not in the same place. Like, the world and the world is very different for them than it was when we were growing up. And it makes me feel really super old to say that, but it's true. And
nobody wants to have a phone call anymore. They just want to text and send emojis.
Right. And be careful what you send, because I got scolded for putting an exclamation point in my text message from my daughter. Why are you yelling at me? And I'm like, I'm not yelling at you. Like, what are you talking about? Well, you exclaimed me. And I'm like, okay, I didn't know that was a rule, So anyway, I am like super excited to hear, all the things that you have to say and just learning about that generation. And because it's, it's our job, I feel like, to learn to connect with all the generations. And I've never felt disconnected. Like I always felt like I was kind of in the know and could maneuver. And I've hit a point where I'm like, I definitely see the disconnect now, and I need to do a little better to learn, this generation, because I am getting older, although I'm younger than Casey.
Correct. Yeah, man.
That part.
Tell us your ways, man. Tell us your ways.
Well, teens are funny. There's a quote one time, and this is a quote that I always keep with me, and I want to start off about teenagers. I heard from a mentor one time. He said, the only bad thing about teenagers is that there aren't enough of them. And really looking at this rising generation, and I believe so strongly, and I will start this way off strong like this, that this upcoming rising generation has more capacity to do good, more resources, more capability, more opportunities, more everything to do more good in this world than at any other time in the history of the world. It's just straight up facts. They have more available. Now, from somebody who's not in that generation's perspective, it might be like, well, teens, get off the couch. What are y'all doing? Because it doesn't seem like you're doing much. Now, while that may seem as true, there is a lot of good being done, I think, by the rising generation. But I'm only 23, so I'm only like from a senior in high school, there's probably about a 4 or 5 year age gap. So there's not much. So with teens, I feel like I'm a teen at heart, which might make it a little bit easier for me to connect with the younger rising generation. But teens need to know that they're trusted. They need to know that they have the capacity to do something by the people that they look up to. Now, they may not say that they look up to you, because as a teen, you don't want to say that. You don't want to blow your cover, and you got the whole persona. You don't want to give off the impression that you might be looking up to somebody else. You got it all figured out and put together. But from the people who are not in that generation, the rising generation, to if a teen knows that they are trusted, genuinely, honestly trusted, there is a special sense of accountability and responsibility that then comes into this young person's heart, because they know that they can go out and do it. Because here's the thing about teenagers, and speaking personally for me, they need autonomy. The reason why they have more capacity to do more good in this world now more than ever before is not just because of opportunities and resources, but because they have power within them. They have it within them to be able to go out and do great things, but they need to know and believe that the people above them, so to speak, in experience or age, trust them. They need autonomy. When I first got my autonomy moving out of the home, which is when I kind of felt like the first time I was getting a big sense of autonomy, I took off. Now, sometimes teens might take that autonomy and go in some wild, crazy directions, which might be something that Stacy, Casey, you're thinking like, well, how do I steer this kid to make sure that they use their autonomy in the right directions, right? Because we all know that they use them for other ways. Stacy, we're talking about your son over here that just loves hacking into things. Like, he's taking his autonomy and he's moving it in a whole different direction, right? But to know that they are trusted to do good things and to have a capacity to go out and do great things and make an impact is something that I just want to say right off the rip. And
I think it's a balance of, well, first of all, I love this. And we're talking more about teenagers. So I feel like this applies more to the teenagers that we're coaching, which is amazing because we need that too. And I feel like our coaches struggle with that as well, because it is just such a different time. I feel like each generation is rapidly changing more than we used to because of all of those resources, so it makes it harder. But I think that it's a balance of everything that you're saying is absolutely true. And it's like totally hitting home with me with my own children. And I'm thinking to myself, like, wow, I really I should have handled that a little differently. And I need to, especially my son, I need to let him know that we do trust him. I need to let him know that more. But how do you balance the motivation? Sometimes I feel like you might show them that you trust them and they feel, they want that autonomy, but yet they lack the motivation to apply anything.
Motivation is a tricky one, especially with teens. I mean, I work with a couple teens right now, or have in the past. Their parents will be like, hey, can you start working with our son? Because he's just not getting up and out of the house and just has no motivation or drive to do anything. Now, I will say this. I or we do not have the power to change anybody. But what you do have the capacity to do is to help create vision. If a teen, or anybody for that matter, struggles with motivation, there needs to be a desired outcome that is more desirable than the current state that they're currently living in. So a lot of the times with teens that I'll work with, there's really two different types that I see that I usually work with. One, they're not motivated. They don't want to be. They could care less. The other has been at the pits and rock bottom long enough where they sat in person number one's shoes for so long that they finally got sick of being sick, to use, lack of a better word, which then motivated them to change for a future outcome that was more desirable. So until that point, when they have their own innate internal desire to want to change, to know that they're trusted, to know that they are loved, and to provide them with the resources and the capability to do so. Because until that time period, you'd be like, well, what the heck do I do for my son who's not getting up off the couch for years, right? There may have to be some, I say I'm doing this all for talking to the teens. I also have a lot to rip about parents and parenting. My major in university was marriage and family. So the whole parenting and child development and how do you talk and how do you raise teens on that side is not just all the ways.
Tell us all the ways we've failed. Tell us. Go ahead. Go ahead. Tell us, Braden.
There are so many different parenting styles, and each of them, a lot of them stem from a good place of wanting to be to give your kid everything that they deserve. Like I'll speak broadly and generally, maybe I know not every parent is exactly this way, but I would say for the most part, most want to give their kids a better life than they have, that they want to give them all the opportunities that they deserve. And so being an authoritative parent where everything is controlled and maybe there's a little bit helicopter, it stems from a good place of wanting to give that kid and wanting to make sure they're safe, but then they don't have as much autonomy. If we're too permissive, then we don't have enough rules and enough boundaries. It's all high love, high expectations, teeter-totter. And we've been trying to figure it out for the end of time. And
I'm more on that end that you're describing.
Are you which more? So Casey, which side are you more on? You're on more the love side, high love, right? On the permissive side. Stacy, which side are you on?
I actually know a little bit about this because I took a lot of educational and child psychology in college as well. Granted, I am not 23, so it's been a few years ago, but I feel like I lean more in the middle, but probably more towards the authoritative, to some degree. But like, my daughter is 19, almost 19, and I mean, she gets a lot of, more permissive there, but I also feel like she's earned that. She's older. She's, there is that trust there. So that's kind of me. I don't know. My kids tell me I'm strict all the time, but that's because their friends are running around doing everything that they want without any rules, in my opinion. So I'm like, no, we're not really strict. We just have some boundaries.
And boundaries are a sign of love. Now, for a teenage brain to understand that, again, I would not have told you that those words that just came out of my mouth, I would not have told you when I was in high school, because I was the rebellious one. I was the one in my family that did not want to stick or adhere to whatever it was that my parents were telling me. But it does come that I do realize now and wish I had known more then, which is a message I want to, tell teenagers and ones that I work with now, is rules are a sign of love. Boundaries are a sign of love, because without them, Stacy's you just described, their other kids, their parents don't care. You can go out and do whatever the heck you want. Now, I would ask you, teenager, if you're listening to this, which one do you think loves their kids more? And we know the answer to that.
Well, question. I mean, I would like to think that all of the parents love their children. However, some, I think, feel that is how they're loving their child, by letting them do letting them do all of those things because I love you and I don't want to tell you no, so I'm going to let you go do this. I can't tell you.
You don't know what you don't know. That's the thing. You're so impacted. Right. We parent because of how we were parented. And it could be the exact opposite, like I didn't like how I was parented, so I'm going to go to the other extreme. Or, family trauma. I mean, I think that's a thing, that I dealt with. My dad got sober right around the age of 15 or 16. So my mom and dad had to focus so much, especially my dad, he had to focus on his sobriety. He was dying, I mean, he was literally dying. So he was in fight or flight. So, at 15, it was like, I was an only child. I didn't have any siblings. My dad was, these are all great things that he was doing, but I was largely ignored for 3 years because they didn't have the ability to parent. My dad didn't have the ability to be a dad at the time. He didn't have the ability to have a job, like I said, but that impacted, from 15 through the time I left to go to college. I could kind of come and go as I pleased. It was like I was acting as an adult, so that had an impact on things. And then I think with my kids, I'm like, well, I turned out okay. I didn't have all this structure and all of this. So those things impact us, and how we grow up.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Which, for the record, that's all good now. I have a great relationship with my dad. That was a rough period, but we got through it, and our family's better because of it.
It's part of life. It's like, it's not perfect. It's messy.
Well, and you talk about trust, that I think that trust is also trusting that the reality is kids, adults, everybody's going to make mistakes. So I trust you to make the mistakes. Hopefully they're not too bad, And that's a big thing that I tell my kids. I'm like, one mistake can kill you. One poor decision can kill you. Like,
my husband literally tells my kids when they're going out somewhere, do not add or subtract from the population, and we're good.
Like, I mean, that's a very simple way to put it. So
that's his advice. He's like, just as long as you don't add or subtract from the population, like we can make it on to another day. Like, just that's good.
I try to teach my kid, mistakes are okay as long as we learn from them. They're not okay if we continue to make them. However, there are some mistakes that you can never come back from. The things I'm really hardcore on, like, man, you get in a car and you've been drinking, or you get in a car with somebody that's been drinking, you may not get out of the car,
right.
alive. Like, all it takes is one.
You may inadvertently add or subtract from the population. Correct. So let's not do that, Yeah. One of the things that struck me when you started talking, Brayden, especially about the trust aspect, was, like my son has been going through a lot lately. We talk about soccer on here a lot, even though our business is cheerleading and gymnastics and dance. But because of my son and his soccer, we talk about soccer a lot. Yeah. And he has been going through a fair amount of things, and he has multiple times in the last several weeks talked about, like, they lied to me. Like, I don't understand, like, whether it's a coach that he felt like lied to him and said something that he didn't either mean, or maybe the coach said something and then couldn't follow through. And then teammates like didn't answer questions truthfully. And he's not really said that before in the last couple, I guess it's been the last couple of weeks. And I find that to be very interesting. And I can tell that I don't know if he's just learning that people that you trust lie to you, or maybe you're trusting the wrong people, or you know what I mean? Like, I can tell that he's like figuring that out and processing it. And he's been very bothered by the fact that, these people have lied to him. Like, he's just like, I don't understand. And the one thing that I find to be kind of interesting about it, which my son is not, he's very internalizes everything. So he doesn't always want to talk. When he does talk, you got to take the opportunity to like jump in there and have the conversation. But I kind of want to ask him, like, are you like, I feel like he was hurt by it. Like, he's trying to process like how that feels, it's like he's hurt by it, but I to some degree, I think he's internalized it. Like, they didn't value me enough to tell me the truth. So they lied to me. Like, I almost can see those wheels turning in his head. And when you brought up the trust piece today, I'm like, I wonder if that's what's going, like, that's what he's struggling with. Like, that these people didn't care about me enough to tell me the truth. They lied to me. And he's not experienced that before, or if he did, he didn't catch on to it. I'm not really sure, but I feel like that's an interesting piece. And I don't know, Casey, if you remember, like, I don't remember ever feeling quite that way as a kid. I don't know. Like, people lie to you and you get mad at it, but he was very much like in his thoughts and feels about it. Like, it hurt him. That's
interesting, because I think about my own style of coaching. And this is a negative piece, but I'm a people pleaser. I want to please people. So, I will tell you a lie, not on purpose, but it's because I'm trying to keep you happy. So it sounds a little bit like what's going on. And once again, I don't mean an outright lie, but it's, hey, buddy, if you work really hard and you do all these things and you do all of this, then good chance you'll earn that starting position. The part I left out is if two of these other guys no longer are on the team, you might be able to start because they are substantially better than you, And once again, I didn't tell you a direct lie, but I also didn't tell you, like, hey, right now you are not a top player. You are not. You are not as athletic as these guys. So
yeah.
That's a thing I can see as a kid getting it, and that's something we've learned as coaches. We actually talk about this, and one of my partners, I was talking about this the other day. Sherry Cooney, you do not, Brayden, but she's longtime cheerleading coach, and she came into our gym. Her daughter was cheering for us, but she had this tremendous, college record and high school record of coaching. And she came in and she taught us a lot about how to deal with kids. And she would, pull a kid in and, hey, come over here a second, Sally. Hey, I want to let you know right now that I'm making you an alternate, and it's because of this, 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 and this. And I'm happy to talk to you more. And then 15 minutes, she let the kid know where they stood, why they were there, and that she was available to help them through that. Whereas I was the type of person who would spend an hour talking to this same kid. And by the end of that hour, they'd have no idea am I alternate? Am I still in? Am I the best kid on the team? Are you kicking me off? Like they wouldn't know because, I'm him hawing around and I'm genuinely concerned for their feelings. So she taught me something, that it was able to like be direct so that people can understand, and then give them the why, and then follow up with your concern and your care and your empathy for that.
One of the things that you talk about, Brayden, is turning, I can't into I can. And I'm interested to hear like what your philosophy is on that. Cause I find oftentimes that, that's so important, especially for teenagers. And depending on, kind of like their societal pecking order, right? Especially when we're talking about like competitive sports, like you're a starter or you're not a starter. And if you're not a starter, then, your teammates are all friends, but they look at you as a non-starter versus a starter. And, I oftentimes find that kids, they build confidence. They think that they build confidence and have a can-do attitude, like when they are the starter, but it's like getting them to understand, like, look, you either need to do more work, like Casey said, perhaps you've been overlooked. That happens sometimes. Like, it's okay. How do you live in that spot where everybody has basically kind of deemed that you're not that person, or for cheerleading purposes, it's like, the point center flyer, right? Like if you're not that person, how do you become that person if you want to be that person? And it's like teenagers have a habit of like believing it once they get it, as opposed to like, no, I'm going to go show you that I can do this. Yeah. It's hard for them to have that attitude, I feel like.
Yeah. So here's a flaw I see within sports. Is a very easy way to describe what I'm about to say, but it applies everywhere. There's a very easy tendency to believe that I am what I do or what I do not do.
Absolutely.
Or the label starter, whatever it is that your coach or society deems as a label being given to you for certain actions that have been done. That is not you. You are not a label, but who you are makes you good at doing the thing that you have been labeled. So I'll give you a story about this. One of my best friends, he's, again, not so much related to sports, but he does a lot with like drugs and addiction recovery and coaching in that sort of space. And he told me a story one time about a client that came in. It was a mom. She had, I believe, one kid at the time, and she was a heroin addict. And she comes into him one day. She's really struggling. She sits down and she's telling him his whole life story. And he asks her this question. He says, "Who are you?" And she says, "I'm a mom." And he looks at her dead straight in the eyes and he says, "No, you're not." He says, "Who you are makes you good at being a mom. Your innate sense of self, who you are divinely, mom is a label. That may always change whether you have a kid or not, but who you are makes you good at doing the thing that other people say you are." So with sports, if I've come to believe that my sense of self-worth, or I'm doing great if I start tomorrow, if my worth is always dependent on something that will always fluctuate, then my worth will always fluctuate. That's the problem. So if my worth is tied to who I am innately, that's not something that's ever going to change, regardless of whether the labels or my performance changes. That will always change. But if your worth is tied to something that will always fluctuate, then your worth is always going to fluctuate. So for a teenager who believes whose worth is totally dependent on the fact if they start the next day or if they're the star player, gymnastics, soccer, football, you name it, then there will always be a fluctuation in what that kid thinks about himself. So if I'm a coach and I'm helping teens to understand, I'm not who other people say I am, or I'm not the collection of things that I've done or haven't done. Who I am makes me good at doing the thing that I want to do. And that doesn't change.
Man,
And
that's pretty deep.
If I understood that as a teen, I would have so much less of a struggle up here believing, okay, if I don't start the next game, that doesn't have an effect on me, but I will still work harder than the next to go for this spot. We're talking about Casey, we're talking about with your team and telling these people, like, here's what you got to work on. And this, I forget the lady, you said the collegiate coach or whatever, that came in and spoke with those kids. But what she's doing is it's conveying a message. Here's what you need to do to attain a certain level, but that has no effect on you and your worth or who you are as an individual. It's simply actions that will get you from where you're at now to a certain starting point. And if we as coaches or parents or mentors were to look at a child and say, okay, there's a piece of information that I need to convey to you to help you to do better. Ask yourself this question in your mind: is me holding back and telling them what they need to hear, is not telling them that directly more or less impactful than if I were to actually tell them what they needed to hear? And I think we would hold back a lot less, because we would realize that telling them what they need to hear is so more impactful than if we were to hold back in thinking that it would save their feelings a little bit more. But again, if you can convey to a kid, this does not have an effect on who I think about you, I think feelings would be hurt a lot less, because kids will internalize it and take it as, okay, that means that I am
it's personal
blank, right? So this other friend, he said that the words that follow I am follow you. So if you take a piece of information, and again, this goes outside of sports, if you take a piece of information and you say, let's say Casey gives me a piece of constructive criticism about how I'm doing in gymnastics one day. If I take that constructive criticism and I therefore go that and I start telling myself that means that I am not a good player, not performing well, and I start going down this negative train of I am statements, that's how many begin to show up. Because again, they've internalized that piece of constructive criticism means that I am something negative. But that's not true. Because again, who I am doesn't change, and what Casey tells me has no effect on who I am. Who I am, regardless of what constructive criticism has come my way, is still the same. It has
I need
no
to bring
effect.
you to Atlanta for about a week, right after tryouts. And Braden, I don't know if you understand the cheerleading world, but during tryouts, hundreds, sometimes over 1,000 kids come into places. They try out, and there's an expectation. There's a desire of what they want, and exactly like so many people. I am this. I am a flyer, and we just had our tryouts, and a lot of the directors right now are having different conversations because exactly what you're describing. People are like, well, I'm a flyer and I didn't make it, or I'm this, and it's crazy because it's kind of like going to apply for a job. All right, we've got this one job at this company and there are 100 applicants. Out of those 100 applicants, heck, probably 95% of them are qualified. There are the people, I'll just try it. But 95% of them are qualified. And then that has to be whittled down to one person gets that job. Is it experience? It could be experience. It could be where they live. It could be they had a better interview. It could be all these different things. But to your point, the other 94 qualified applicants aren't losers, aren't unemployable, aren't, and that's a lot of kind of the conversations we're having right now in sports. Just because they didn't get a position or get a spot, does not, to your point, it doesn't change the person that they are. That's the thing we jokingly say during tryouts. We're making dreams come true, or we're ruining somebody's lives, because that's what we hear on the phone. You ruined my kid's life, and the reality is we didn't. There is life after sport. There should be, but for those that like you said, they take on this identity that I am this and only this. Then you give yourself this one option, and if that's all you have, then you can get in a pretty negative space pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Which I agree 100%, 1,000%, if that's a real thing, with all of what you're saying. I think the secret sauce is how do you get the kid to separate the two and believe for themselves, who they are, and that who they are isn't, what they do, basically. We can, I think it's extremely important that we as coaches, and mentors understand that and start having conversations with kids that way. Like, hey, we can separate these two things, and you are all of these things over here, but we need to work on, this over here. This is what you do. This is who you are. Two separate things. I think that's great. But I think it's easier said than done to get the teenager to actually believe it themselves.
Totally.
Where's the magic answer in that? Come on, Brayden.
Well, to be honest, I think it starts when they're born. And I know we're a little late to the train, but one of the best quotes, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The best next time is now. And so exactly what you're talking about, when kids are from very young distinguishing the two, that's why we have such a hard time now trying to separate them, is because this has been a lifelong thing that's just been presented to them, and that's become an ingrained belief. But now what I would start to do to differentiate the two, a kid's brain needs to see who they are, what the other options are. So a very popular activity that I will do with my clients that I meet with right now, I give this to almost every single one of them. This single activity is kind of the one that set my whole trajectory for coaching. And what I will tell kids to do is I want you to come up with a list of I am statements, at least 30, that you can gather either from yourself, from parents and friends, or from God or a higher power if you happen to be religious or not. And I want you to go to all of those sources, and I want you to pull at least 30 I am statements in the positive about who you innately are. And then what I'll have those kids do is I have them read them out loud every morning and every night, their personal creed, their personal manifesto, until that is such an ingrained belief in their brain. Because here's the thing, writing and speaking, your brain can think a lot faster than you can write and you speak. Like, this is just science. We know this. And so when you speak or when you write, your brain has to slow down and really internalize it a lot more, which again helps it to become an ingrained belief faster. The other thing that I would do if I were a coach, happen to be in Atlanta and I'm working with these teenagers, not only would I do that, would I give them the actual 30 that they have to go over each and every day, but I would start destroying, almost in a way, kind of like what you were saying, Stacy, of differentiating the two. Can I sit down and have a conversation with you about how you are not what you do? Because here's the thing, we know this in pro athlete sports all the time. Somebody's in the NFL, they get injured. They believe I am football. So when they're not playing football anymore, why do so many go into this midlife crisis? It's because they don't think or believe that they are or can be anything else. But again, they're not football players. Who they are makes them good at being football players, but it's not who they are. But if they believe that, and as soon as football's gone, I have no life anymore because my life is gone.
Interesting you say that. And I think, I don't know, I was really into cycling for a long time and rode my bike a lot. Got into that, was following professional cycling. And one thing I learned, that there was a really high suicide rate of professional cyclers once they finished the sport. And I have to think it's what you described. They are their life. They're cyclists. So what are they after the sport? And to many of them, unfortunately, probably that they felt like that they were nothing outside of the sport. So I would imagine at high levels that is probably a difficult thing for many, because it's not like these people were professional cyclists for a year. Many of them, it was from their teenage years until they're, up close to 40 years old. So it is a large portion of their life that kind of can become all consuming. And we think of that even in youth, like that seems crazy, but it's not. You see it in youth sports as well. Kids start playing baseball at 5, and even if they don't go to the college level, they may play all the way through high school. That's 13 years, and if they're 18 years old, that's over half their life that they have been a baseball player. So,
yeah. What's one quick, I don't know, solid gold takeaway, Braden, that you would give if there's one little nugget of information that you would say, if I leave you with this one thing?
I always love saying this too, that if you find yourself listening to this and you're like, shoot, man, I got to change. Like I got to do some work here. Please understand that you're okay. You're normal. Like this is not something that you are the exception like everybody else. Everybody else doesn't have this problem, or you are not the one that just has the problem and nobody else. Like it's like, I'm sure we've all struggled with this in this room that we're talking with. And so I would just want to know, like, it's okay. You're normal and it is possible to change it. But if there is one little tidbit, again, I would learn to differentiate who I am between what I do or what other people say about me. And when I can differentiate the two and believe innately who I am light. I am love. I am compassionate. I'm going through all of these I am statements about who I innately am. When I can truly believe those, like I'm empathetic. I'm a listener. Like when I go through and I believe those things inherently about me, again, those things aren't going to change for me, regardless of what anybody says or doesn't say. So learn to differentiate between who you are and believe truly that you got so much in you. I know our teens, and I've worked with a lot of teens. I was a teacher for a long time of a group of teens, and you ask them to write down 5 things that they love about themselves, and it's very hard, and they can't do it. They have a very hard time seeing the good within you. And so look for the good within you. I promise you it's there. Learn to differentiate the two between who you are and what other people think or say and what you do. And when you do that, you'll be on a much healthier trajectory, so that in a worst case scenario, cases you just kind of outlined, that is, ultimately what it can lead to at the very end, at that extreme. So let's not get there. Let's put a little break on that.
Yeah.
So that's what I would say.
Mental health is so important. I mean, one thing in listening to you share that, and one thing that came to my mind, and I think about my own children. I've got 3 boys, and 2 of them, one of them is 26 and one of them is around 21, and they're at that age and they're finding their way in the world. And often, I find that they try to compare themselves to others or compare themselves even to me. And that's a thing that I probably need to have some more discussion with, because their self-worth sometimes isn't based on the things that you described. I'm empathetic. I'm this. I'm a good listener. It's based on, I didn't make as much money as my friend. I'm not as smart as my friend. I'm not as far along. What if I'm not as successful as dad? That's a thing that I've kind of found out with my younger son, of like, sometimes he'll hold back on what he's doing because he's scared of that failure, or if I'm not going to be good enough, I'm not going to be as good as dad. And that's not a thing to me, but it is a thing to him, and there are all these cliches about, comparison is the thief of joy and these different things, but it can truly, like, I don't know, that's just something that hit me, of like, focus on what you are, not what someone else is or where you stack up to them.
Can I just, I know you just want to rip maybe some more, maybe I'm going totally off topic. Cut this if you want, but I just want to rip a little thing about comparison because it's massive. And again, it all comes back to worth. To go on your topic of comparison is the thief of joy, I'll add on to that. I'll give you a little hot take. Comparison isn't the thief of joy. Envy is the thief of joy. We will always be comparing ourselves to either others or to ourselves. Like comparison is always something that's going to be there to elevate, to bring us higher, to get us to places that we are not currently at. But you can either let comparison either inspire you or demoralize you. It will inspire you if it's not tied to how they're doing affects my worth. If it does, then that's where it turns to envy. If I have to have something in order to be happy or to have worth or to have satisfaction, then it's not tied to the right thing. So again, if my worth, happiness, or satisfaction is tied to something that fluctuates on somebody else's timeline, then I have tied it to something that it was never intended to be tied to. Because dad and how he's doing is always going to be different than where I'm at. So if my happiness, worth, or satisfaction is always tied to how dad is doing or how my friends are doing, or if they have blank, then I'll never be happy because they're always going to be in a different spot than me, unless I happen to be doing better than them. But that's just pride. And again, that's thinking that that's thinking that and believing that somehow I'm worth more if they're suddenly doing not as good as me. So again, we've tied worth to something that it wasn't supposed to be.
Right. And all of that's kind of based on what exactly? The richest man could be miserable in his marriage and his kids could hate him. And you know what I mean? So I totally feel like we as a society have a habit of doing that. And I think that, not to go down this rabbit hole, but I feel like social media really heightens that because you're seeing all these perfect snapshots of people's lives and they're so happy and they're so amazing and they're so fabulous. And and that's all that you're seeing because nobody's posting online, their garbage, nobody's, posting the bad moments in life. And so it's hard to, differentiate that. I feel like years ago, it was when social media first came out, I think I struggled with that a lot. Then I kind of took a break where I was like, okay, I don't even want to be on it. And then I got back on it and I got in the habit of anytime I would see somebody that was like a friend, that posted something fun or happy or fabulous, I would always force myself. And now it's just second nature, but I would be like, oh, that's amazing. Like, I'm so happy for their kid who did so well. Or, oh, isn't that wonderful? Like, oh, look at look at what they're doing. That's so great. And in the beginning, it was kind of a conscious choice to make myself do that.
Make it.
Correct. But now it's just like, I genuinely feel that. And I just move on about my day. It's no big deal. Like, I'm thrilled that this person's happy and posting their happiness. And isn't that wonderful? And moving on about my day. You know what I mean? Like,
Stacy, you've unlocked the thing. That is the secret, because if you can be happy for somebody else who has something that you don't have, you're grounded. It's a litmus test. It ultimately is. If you can be happy or be content or be okay with who I am amidst other people having the things that I don't yet have or want, that is a sign that you believe who you are and you are content with who you are versus what everybody else has. That's the thing that you're just saying right off the cuff right here. And I want to give you just one quote and then I'll stop talking because I've gone way too much over, but I just love this one. It says, New York is 3 hours ahead of California, but that doesn't make California slow. Someone graduated at the age of 22, but waited 5 years before securing a job. Someone became a CEO at 25 and died at 50. While another became a CEO at 50 and lived to 90. Someone is still single while someone else got married. Everyone in this world works based on their time zone. People around you might seem to be ahead of you and some might seem behind. But everyone's running their own race in their own time. Do not envy them. Do not mock them. They are in their time zone and you are in yours. Life is about waiting for the right time to act. So relax. You're not late. You're not early. You're very much on time.
Love that.
Good stuff.
Brayden, if people want to reach out or learn more or connect with you, how can they do that?
I'm mostly on Instagram the most. That's where I post, and that's where I do a lot of content and speaking and whatnot. So if people want to DM me or find me on there, it's just _Brayden.Black, and I'll always respond to somebody that reaches out or sends me a DM. So you can find me on there.
Awesome.
Or on Facebook. Either of those are work well.
We'll put that in the show notes so people can easily find that. So, all right, Casey, I think it's time for your dad joke.
All right. This is from CJ. This is CJ's second one, I believe. CJ sent us some good dad jokes. So, if you've got a good dad joke, make sure you send it our way. But without further ado, what do you call a Frenchman wearing sandals? A Frenchman wearing sandals.
I don't know, Braden, you got a guess?
The Frenchman wearing sandals. Holy cow.
Pepe Le Pew. Doesn't make sense. It's all that comes to mind.
Philippe Flop. Philippe Flop.
Oh,
Philippe Flop.
Stacy, you were closer than I was.
Oh, too funny.
I had to read that. I'm like, am I saying this right? So, sometimes they flow and sometimes they don't. But we love when you guys share your dad jokes with us. Send those to us on our new website at themotusedge.com or DM us on social media at Join Modus. And we're going to take just a second and tell you about Stacy's wonderful book, The Pioneers of All-Star.
The Pioneers of All-Star Cheer takes you on a sweeping journey from the first chance of 1898 to the electric high-stakes world we know today. With insider accounts, rich detail, and intimate pioneer profiles, this book pulls back the curtain on the evolution of creativity, community, and the relentless pursuit of excellence. The Pioneers of All-Star Cheer is available now on Amazon and online anywhere books are sold. Learn more at srfabrico.com. That's srfabrico.com. All right, Braden, are you ready to get into some rapid fire questions?
Love some hot seat, rapid
All
fire.
Right. These are super easy, super painless. Casey likes to slow them down, but we're going to try to go quick today.
Yeah, let's
do
it.
All right, would you rather go skydiving or scuba diving?
Skydiving.
Do you prefer cardio or weights?
Weights.
Roller coaster or Ferris wheels?
Roller coaster.
What's your go-to karaoke song?
Mine is nothing because you don't want to hear me sing.
Tennessee whiskey. That seems to work with our audience right here. We got some from Tennessee. We'll do that.
I like it. Casey, you don't have a karaoke song?
I can't sing.
Y'all, I'm not even going to lie. Mine is Vanilla Ice or Baby Got Back. There you have it.
Okay. I see you.
Yeah.
All right.
If you could have dinner with any historical figure, who would it be and why?
Nelson Mandela. I think he's just such a powerhouse, and wow, what a man that just brought two worlds completely different together. I lived in South Africa for a couple of years as well, and so I greatly admire what that man did and the love that he had for people, what he could have done but didn't do to people that despitefully just destroyed his life for so many years. But yeah, him for sure.
And zero, I think you were the fastest person to answer that. Zero hesitation. You knew exactly who you wanted to have dinner with. So
I love it.
Cool.
That's the fastest we've ever done rapid fire questions. I would call that to be actually rapid.
That was actually rapid. So we got a question for you from one of our listeners. As gym owners and coaches, we spend so much time trying to build confidence in athletes and staff. But what do you do when someone's talent is obvious, but their self-belief just can't seem to catch up? How can leaders help people to stop defining themselves by mistakes or fear and start seeing who they actually are?
I think we actually kind of answered that question through the podcast. That's kind of crazy.
Yeah. I would tell them to, in short, go back to timestamp blank and blank somewhere in the pod and listen to that for while we're talking about that. I know that's probably a terrible way to answer that question, but again, it goes back to Stacy, like you were talking about, learning to differentiate the two, come up with your list. I think it's cool when a leader can see something in a kid that they don't yet see. I mean, that's powerful, but the kid the kid who doesn't yet believe it, everybody got to ask, well, how come they don't believe it? And there's probably some limiting beliefs there that we need to unpack and get rid of. And if you are a leader or a mentor, I think it's so cool that you have an opportunity to do that for a kid, to help expose some of those, but also say, this is not you. So
I've heard so many stories over the years from coaches about different kids and what they offer to the team. And some of the ones that are most intriguing are not skill based, but we need this person on our team because they're the one that keeps up team morale. They're the glue. They're the thing. And I think oftentimes as coaches or leaders, we forget to share those things with kids because we're constantly, assessing skill or correcting skill or teaching those things. But to your point, when we can take a moment and share something with a kid that they may not know about themselves, and then that can be greatly impactful.
Yeah, great question.
Stacy, I think you're on mute there.
Thank you so much, Braden, for hopping on today. It's been wonderful chatting with you, and unexpectedly,
wise beyond your years, my friend.
Yes, and very unexpected, and I mean that in the best way possible. Not that I didn't expect you to be great, but it was way deeper than I was expecting on this fabulous Wednesday morning. But I love it. I'm here for it.
Thank you, Stacy, Casey. Love the Stacy Casey rhyme right here.
Yeah, man.
Good vibes this morning. What a great way to start. So
we need to have you back on. This is, like I said, Stacy nailed it. It's pretty deep, but I feel like we could have talked for another hour and gone in some different directions. So really
agree.
What you had to say.
Agree completely.
Thank you.
Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel at the MotUS Edge and check out our video shorts, like and comment. We'd love to hear from you. Give us a follow on Instagram at Facebook and X, on Facebook and X, not at Facebook and X, at Join MotUS. Follow our show wherever you listen to your podcast. And if you like what we're doing and you want to hear more, leave us a comment and be sure to tell all of your friends. And hey, if you're a gym owner, join the movement and sign up for MotUS today. Thank you guys so much for listening. We're excited for you to have the MotUS Edge.
Thank you for listening to the MotUS Edge. We hope you had a blast. Join us next week for more on business, leadership, and motivation. Subscribe and follow the show where you get your podcasts. Subscribe to our newsletter at joinmodus.com. The MotUS Edge podcast is produced by ClantonCreative.com.